Hey, we are live. All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Steve Moran. I'm here with my good friend Douglas Yates, and
Hello, hello.
we're going to be talking to you about Bitcoin and all the wonderful things Bitcoin and the digital currencies have been doing here recently, and kind of what it's all about. And we realize there's a lot of people out there that just really don't know anything about these markets. It's surprising a lot of people don't know where to buy Bitcoin, even how to get it, or kind of really what it's all about. So our goal here is really just to educate people about it and teach them kind of what the opportunities are, because there's some tremendous opportunities out there. Go ahead, Doug. You got anything you want to say there? And then I'm going to tell them quickly, run into my quick little story of how I got really involved in cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's the time is now. There is a sense of urgency. It is the boom. The 100% adoption is happening right now. We're right at the beginning of that, so it's important for you, if you're on the fence of whether you should participate or not. And you're going to listen to Steve's story. I'm going to show you some headlines today that just reiterate the fact that the time is now to get involved, to get educated. Educated is the most important thing, actually, because then you'll feel very comfortable about it. Every day I wake up. I'll make this real quick. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I read all the headlines all over the world about Bitcoin and blockchain. I'm into blockchain technically because that's my background. But I because of that, I feel so comfortable of going all in personally with Bitcoin, because it's the future. Bitcoin, blockchain, it's the future of everything. So I'll kick it back to you, Steve.
Yeah, my first experience, actually, I got a call from my son. It's probably 5 or 6 years ago now. And he's a real bright kid, and when he calls me, I usually pay attention to what he says. When he calls and starts running, he says, "Dad," he says, I came across this thing you got to invest in." And I said, "What is it?" He says, "It's this thing called Ripple." I'm like, "Ripple?" I said, "What's Ripple?" It's like, when I was a kid, we used to have this old wine that was called Ripple.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? And he says, "Well, it's this thing." He says, it's transacting between banks, large transactions, and kind of goes through this whole thing with it. So, well, it sounds pretty interesting. I said, "So how much is it?" And he says, "It's like 7 cents." I'm like, 7 cents?
Wow.
Dude, I said, "What is it, a penny stock?" And he's like, no, it's a digital coin. It's a digital currency. I'm like, "Well, what the hell is that? How does that even work?" Right? And so he's like, "Well, go over to this place like Coinbase," right? So he tells me how to go to Coinbase and how to sign up and get an account and all this stuff. And he goes, "It's probably going to take you a couple of days or whatever," right? So I said, "Okay, I'll go check it out." Right. So it takes like 3 days, and I finally get the thing back, and I go in and I look at this thing, this Ripple. It's called XRP. And I look at it, and I said, "David," I said, "it's already at 11 cents. I'm like, "Did I miss it?" And he's like, No, just get in, go buy now." I'm like, "Okay." So I go in and buy a few $1,000s worth of, this Ripple. Okay. And literally within a week, it was at like 32 cents. And it was like, it's crazy. It was crazy. So he sold a little bit and he got my money back. I was like, "Okay, just be safe there, because I don't know what this thing's going to do. Let's hold on to some of it." And I mean, it kept going up and kept going up and kept going up. And literally by Christmas time, probably about 8 or 9 months later, I think it hit like $2.50.
Wow.
Okay. And I didn't have any of it left at that point. But so after having a ride like that and kind of just going, "Oh my God, what is this all about? I don't even know what this stuff is."
Right.
I really started diving deep into that. And I had the opportunity in 2016. I was hired by a company out in the Philippines, and they hired me for 6 months and paid me in Bitcoin, paid me $20,000 a month in Bitcoin, to go out and consult on a project where they were putting together a coin for their business. And so I've been around this business for a long time, and you see a lot of really interesting kind of opportunities. And, it just is shocking because, I'm 61, and most guys my age don't really have any idea what it's all about.
Right.
I've been fortunate because my sons, kind of led me into that direction, and I've really kind of dove deep then, as you imagine, you make that kind of return on something. Wait a minute, I want to see what else is out there, what this is really all about.
Right.
And it's just amazing. It's just totally amazing. So that was my first run with it. I'm going to throw it back to you, Doug. Go ahead.
Yeah. I had a similar experience of just, somebody coming to me. I forget who it was, and said, "You got to check out this mining of a thing called Bitcoin." And this, this is way back in 2013, 2014, back when, it was. I'll give a quick story. My very first transaction in Bitcoin, I had to go find somebody who had some Bitcoin, talk them into selling it to me, and it was a taxi driver in Florida. I'm in California. And so I just met this guy over the internet, built enough trust with him that I know it probably wouldn't screw me. I deposited a cashier's check in his Bank of America account, and I bought 1 Bitcoin from him. And this was, for like $1,500 or back in the day. So that was my first foray into this thing, and it opened my eyes too to just like you, like this seems. I love the freedom, and the control that it gave me back, with to my financial future and the control of my financial. I love that part. I mean, that's why I started at a company in 1979 called Tandem Computers as an employee. I was still in high school, actually, and kind of worked my way up through the company. I was working in the stock room, and when I left, I was a corporate quality engineer giving presentations to the board and president of this billion-dollar computer company, and that was my foray into the IT world. And I realized that every time I looked at my check and half of it was going to somebody else, I didn't know who this FICA guy was and all this kind of stuff. I just know that, dang, I worked a lot for that money and half went away. So I'm like, I'm going to start my own businesses. And so that's what got me into that. And so I've always been in that, leaning towards that realm of entrepreneurialism, and blockchain is the culmination of that. I mean, that was when I was 15. So fast forward 40 something years. Blockchain comes up, and I'm like, this is the epitome of giving control back to the people, we the people. And it's here to stay. And I want to show everybody, I'm going to share my screen. I want to show everybody the, just give me a second here. It'll pop it up. And, oops. I'm going to try it. It's hers. Sorry, let me share here. Share screen. There we go. And let me play it from the beginning here. All right. So here's, like I said, I get up every morning, early, do my meditation, read my headlines, and this is what's been coming over the internet. These are headlines from all over the world. Today, Anthony Scaramucci, which runs one of the largest capital funds in the world, Skybridge Capital, and he says Bitcoin's better than gold, and he's talking about it for it being market capitalization, storage of wealth, growth, a hedge against inflation, and I'll show you some other sides of why that's so important. And then there's a little sub article about Skybridge Capital submitted it's going to be one of the first ETFs, which is a electric trading fund, filing with the SEC, which is they've been working on this for a year now, and it's finally come into fruition. It's basically allowing people to invest in funds, basically, and the fund's all about Bitcoin, which is the easiest fund in the world to do. All you have to do is buy Bitcoin and sit there. That's it. The hardest part is the paperwork, to get it approved. The VC who backed Coinbase, which is one of the largest exchanges out there, he has a prediction that Bitcoin is going to be 150K by the end of this year. The $57 billion worth of Bitcoin, this was back in March 18th, were bought and sold, and 71% were buys. So people are buying and holding. Because of the Federal Reserve keeping the interest rate that it is, and the bailout of them printing $1 trillion plus worth of new currency, the dollar basically inflationary, its buying power is going lower and lower. And now Bitcoin is the third largest currency in the world. Over here on the lower left, Bitcoin is looking good on balance sheets. Pretty much every major corporation in the world is taking their cash on their balance sheet and buying Bitcoin with it because of the growth. I mean, Tesla, Apple, all the major funds, MicroStrategies, it all over the world. It's happening right now. So over the next 45 days, there'll be over $1 trillion worth of buying of Bitcoin happening. And you know what happens with supply and demand? It drives the price up. Turkish, the lira yesterday, this is today's headline, the lira yesterday dropped more than 15% during the day, but it came back up a little bit. And so their buying power went down in one day, 15%. So if it's like you going to gas and paying $1, and at the end of the day, you're paying $1.15 for that same gallon of gas. So they're basically running into Bitcoin to help store their wealth. We got NFL football players opting to take their whole salary in Bitcoin. The BTC manager did a survey, and the Bitcoin price is predicted to explode as Americans prepare to buy on the dip with their stimulus checks issued out. So that's driving more and more people in, and they're holding. They're buying and holding. They're not buying and flipping. They're buying and holding. And I'll go into why that's important in just a second. Here's something huge that happened yesterday on the Jim Cramer. Jim Cramer is interviewed by this gentleman. It's called Pomp Podcast. You can see it down there in the lower left, and he goes huge. And once it in his head, and you know who Jim Cramer is. He has an MSNBC show about stocks and what stocks are great and what stocks aren't, and how to allocate your investments. So much in the stocks, so much in the gold, all that kind of stuff. And he used to say, put 10% of your investment dollars, your savings dollars, into gold to hedge against inflation. And now he switched that yesterday because he in beginning December, he bought $500,000 worth of Bitcoin. This was before it went up to 20. It was around 11 or 12 or 15 around there. And, now it's over 50,000. And he was just livid and excitement of what he did personally. And he's saying put 5% in gold and put the other 5% into Bitcoin. And, if people that follow Jim Cramer, who has the largest audience of one of the largest stock shows in the world, follow what he does, the supply and demand of Bitcoin is only going to drive the price up. Visa is basically bringing up a network to be able to take and use Bitcoin as the payment process and the blockchain. So they're moving their whole operation out of the SWIFT and all the financial networks that's now, and they're moving it to blockchain and using Bitcoin as the base in there. India's over the last, I've been following India for about 4 or 5 years in regards to Bitcoin, and every 6 months they try to outlaw it. And what happens is millions and millions of dollars leave the country instantly. And then they go, wait, we don't want that to happen. So, just recently it was been a lot of noise out there that they're going to outlaw it. Now they basically said they're going to allow citizens to be able to do it. They do this all the time. Because the problem is they can't stop it. It's a blockchain. I'm going to end. There's one more slide after this, but this happened this morning with the Tesla. I priced out a Model 3, and there's a button on the bottom that you can buy it. This is, Elon said, he put $1.5 billion into Bitcoin, just like Steve points out, and now you could buy a Tesla with Bitcoin right there with that button. And he says that he's not converting it to cash. He's leaving it on his balance sheets as Bitcoin. And then here's something that's absolutely amazing. I had an old account at TD, and this is actually a screenshot of my account that I took this morning. And I had $250 for just laying around in there. I don't know, for whatever, excess of something. And so I bought back in, it was at the end of September, I bought into a fund that all the fund holds is Bitcoin. And now that and I kind of forgot about it, and I went in there this morning, and it's at $802. I spent $250, less fees. I spent $240 buying Bitcoin, and now it's at $802, and it's not. That was just a few months ago. Absolutely amazing. And let me stop sharing. Just give me a second here.
There we go.
Oh, thank you. You got it. So this is what's happening with Bitcoin. That was just a small example of the headlines that are out there. And I do your own research. Obviously, this is Steve and I are into this industry. We're real comfortable with it. We know a ton. That's why we basically label ourselves as experts, because we've been through it. We've been in this. We're veterans of the industry. But you need to make your own decisions, and don't take what we say as gospel. Go do your own research. Go and research these headlines and look at them for yourself. So you can answer your own questions, and then you come back to us, and then we can help you strategize and help train you of how to implement Bitcoin into your life and really take control of your financial present and your financial future. And we have incredible techniques. There's a way that we could train you that you could never sell your Bitcoin for your whole entire life. So you take advantage of these huge gains. It's only going to get more and more expensive. There's only 21 million Bitcoins, and we talked about this, I think, in the last show. And Steve pointed out right now there's 18 million that are released, and they say up to 20% of those are just lost, of people that early on had Bitcoins and address, and they lost the password, and they'll never be put into circulation ever. And so you're looking at like maybe 15 million, and when it gets to the 21 million in about 30 years from now,
2040,
2040, when it's going to basically mine the last block and mine the whole 21 million, there's probably going to be only 18 to million that are actually in circulation that people have control over. So the reason I tell you that, and I went on with that, is because of the supply and demand. It's only going to go up more. These people, these billionaires and companies that have trillions of dollars. Apple has, they have they call this a run rate, and where it's basically amount of money that costs you to run your company every year. And Apple has enough in their savings accounts, for lack of a better term, that they could run Apple and never make a penny more for 27 years. Right. That's a lot of billions of dollars. If they're one of the first $1 trillion companies, and so is Amazon.
Right.
But they're pouring their excess cash into Bitcoin, and so we could show you how you could copy those in your little, our little realm, my little realm, and be able to accumulate Bitcoin and never sell it, but also be able to use it and pay expenses and go on vacations, buy assets, all that kind of stuff. It's a real simple technique, and we'll be going into that in some of the future shows. So I'll take a breather and throw it back to you, Steve.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. Our whole goal here is to educate you about, what this opportunity is like, what this whole world is like with the blockchain and Bitcoin and digital currencies. And then, there are opportunities out there where you can just share information with people and earn Bitcoin, So, I mean, it's unbelievable, some of the things that you can do. And, everybody's sitting around here with this pandemic trying to figure out how to make a few extra dollars. What can you do? A lot of people are online trying to really find somebody that they can connect with, something that they can really feel good about. And, I'm telling you that, learning about this space, this is something that if you're already out of school, guys, where are you going to learn this stuff, right? And if you don't learn this, okay, and you don't spend some time trying to learn this, you're going to get so far behind the eight ball, and you're going to miss out on so much potential opportunity just because you don't know about it. And, at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. And once you're out of school, we've got to find somebody who's already, doing we're already at where we want to be, right? And kind of learn a little bit from them. So that's what Doug and I are trying to provide to you. And, leave some comments, questions. If you like the content, please share it with others. And we will be back bright and early again tomorrow. Right, Doug?
That's right.
I'm going to get a better lighting in here, though.
Bitcoin only with Steve and Doug.
There you go, man. All right, bud. Let's sign out here and